Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, at least we hope it is, Justice League Revisited, where we cover episodes of Justice League and now into Justice League Unlimited. I'm one half of the dynamic duo bringing you this podcast every 2 weeks. James Enstall, host of Geek To Me Radio, on the other side of the Zoom screen with her microphone at the ready, earphones firmly in place, dressed to the nines, my co-host, Susan Eisenberg. How are you?
Well. How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Good. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, because we not only have one fabulous guest, we have two.
Yeah. It's always, I enjoy having the more leisurely pace of, like we did with the last episode, having Hector cover The Greatest Story Never Told, and then having one with Booster Gold's creator, Dan Jurgens. But it is fun to have, like, it's almost like a jam session when we get two people on at the same time.
Yeah. And, with these two gentlemen, and we'll introduce them in a moment, they haven't seen each other in a while. So, I think it'll be a reunion for them. And we may just sit on the sidelines and listen to the two of them talk. Do you want to tell the kids who's on?
Well, yes, I do. Since we are covering this episode, The Return, which is episode 8 of season 1 of Justice League Unlimited, which aired on September the 18th of 2004, we have both the person who did the story, Stan Berkowitz, coming back, but also the person who did the teleplay, DeMatteis, coming back as well. They've both been on the show before. They've been friends and go way back working on television. We'll probably talk about that some, but I don't think they've seen each other for quite a while, so this is going to be fun.
Yeah, no, they haven't seen each other for quite a while. And they did Superboy?
Yeah, back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I have never seen it.
I was a kid when it came on. I loved it because there was not, it's hard to think of now, but there was not a lot of comic book content in live action animation for us back in the day.
That's right.
So Superboy was one of those rare treats. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And it even had a DC Comics did a official spin-off comic book called The Adventures of Superboy based on the series.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Yeah. I'm sure it'll come up. But this is great. And they, we approached them both and they were like, absolutely. So it's always nice when our guests say, sure, yes, we'd love to come, especially if they're repeat guests. You know,
we must be doing something right.
Well, the green room is stocked. It's well stocked.
It is spectacular. Right? It's well appointed.
It's well appointed. Yeah. Speaking of which, should we have Gary go get the boys?
Oh, it is Gary. Yeah, Brian was on. Yeah, Brian's every other day. So okay, yeah, Gary, could you go in the? Why did you bring a cat today? Oh, getting it wormed. I understand. The cone makes sense now. Why are you wearing a cone? You know what? It doesn't matter, Gary. Go. No. It's cool. It looks good on you. Oh. Gary, if you would go to the green room and get our guests, please. Thank you. Don't get the ointment on them. You should have put that on the cat before. I much prefer Brian to Gary. Just between us.
Okay, Shecky.
That's okay. Hey, they. All right. So they are seated in their chairs. They're ready to talk to us. So what better way to do the episode The Return than by having a return of two of our best writers that we've had on. We have, for The Return, the teleplay was written by J.M. DeMatteis, story by Stan Berkowitz. They both agreed to come on at the same time. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course, it's always great to see you both and to talk to you both and get your insights. And there's a lot to cover. I know, Susan, you look like you. Is it? We have two writers. We have two writers here. Is it champing at the bit or chomping at the bit?
Champing.
It is champing.
Yeah, because I hadn't seen this episode, I think, since it aired, and
I hadn't either. Yeah, I just rewatched it the other day. Yeah.
And I was just blown away by how much is in this episode. I mean, again, it's just crazy how much is able to be filled in such a 22 minutes. Is that the total? And I did have to do some research because unlike the three of you, this universe is like, okay, Dr. Fate. Okay, what, I had to look a couple of people up. And I have to say that with Hawkgirl, I was really, really shocked to see Hawkgirl. I completely forgot about that whole connection with Dr. Fate. So it was just illuminating, to say the least, but I thought it was a phenomenal episode. And I'm not just saying that because you're both here.
what the two of you had worked together before. We had you both on, talked about, you've worked on collaborations and stuff like before in the past.
We worked on
shows.
Superboy together, yeah.
Right. So was this, who was brought on? Stan, you were already on contract, or were you still what do they call independent contractor writing these episodes at this time?
Oh man, you're bringing up something that's real inside baseball. In the middle of Justice League, I think around when the second season of Justice League, not Unlimited, but Justice League started, I got fired. Everybody got fired. And I thought, well, I got to clean up the office. No. They explained to me that you're not really fired. I just simply went off contract, and that they found a different way to pay us, which is they're paying us by the piece as opposed to paying us by the week. And they could, you'll get the same amount of money. Obviously not true. But I literally had to go from my office to the human HR people, and they gave me like some interview you give to someone who's leaving. Then I went back to my office and I stayed there for another year or two. The reason it was a stupid move on the part of management is that when you're there as a story editor, you help on anything. You're there to help. When they're paying you per script, suddenly it's like, well, this script for the show is my business. That other script is your business. And if I have some ideas for it, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
However, because everybody who worked on that show really cared about what we were doing, we continued behaving as if we were on salary. So we were available for every script. And I guess management was counting on that. They figured, well, they're still going to be doing the same work and we can pay them a little bit less. So kudos to management. And I doubt very much that after this latest merger, any of the people who made that decision will still be working for Warner's. Wow. When they go to CH&R, that means they're not going back to their office.
Yeah, it's crazy how much things have changed and also not changed with corporate decisions like that. But
none of it's changed for the better. That's the problem.
Do I sound at all bitter?
Say that again? You just sound like yourself, Stan.
I don't know. You're right.
So they had you, Stan, they had you do the story for this. And then, so how then, because obviously we had James DeMatteis on before talking about he did for The Man Who Has Everything when he wrote that one. So how did the two of you team up on this particular story with him doing the teleplay?
We didn't. We just handed him the outline.
Oh, okay.
Right, Mark?
Well, I'm sure we had, a phone conversation, but they would send me an outline, and then my job was to develop that into a fuller outline, which we'd go back and forth with, and then to do the teleplay and get the notes and do the next draft and get the notes. But you were the guys, Stan, you and Dwayne were the guys that I always spoke to with the notes, always. Right. Whoever the notes may have been coming from, it was you and Dwayne that I ended up talking to.
Because Bruce Timm doesn't talk to people.
Okay.
No, it's among all the stuff I've done, this is the most Bruce Timm script of any that I can recall.
Okay, for those people who are listening, what does that mean exactly?
Well, the process that we did for stories is that about once a week, Bruce, Dwayne, and I would sit down in a courtyard at Warner's Animation for the afternoon and work out a story. The three of us would work together on a story. In this particular one, Bruce had a lot to say, and it was all condensed into the one last scene, the big scene with Luther and the android. That's really all Bruce. So it was just me taking notes of what he wanted to say, and then helping to build it into a 22-minute outline. Because I think if Bruce had his way, he could have made the whole scene, that one scene, 22 minutes. But I don't know that the viewers would have been too happy about that.
So I have a question for you, Stan, which maybe we talked about 20 years ago. This story always reminded me of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. You've got the android who's like V'ger, who's roaming through the universe looking for purpose and meaning. And in the beginning, he destroys Oa the way that the space station got destroyed at the beginning of Star Trek. And then in the end, it becomes a conversation about the search for meaning. Now, Luther is very different than Captain Kirk and all the other, and it's a lot more fun and action in that 22 minutes than there was in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But I wondered if that was an influence or if that's just coincidental.
it probably was, but it never came up during the conversations.
Oh, that's interesting, because I always thought, wow, this reminds me so much thematically of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Well, you know that everybody who works on this stuff is bathed in
right.
So obviously it was there in the background.
I'm very upset that I did not make that connection.
I didn't either, not until now.
Okay,
Now
James, can
go
we
watch
clock
it again and you'll see. Yeah.
James, can we clock this? Because how long did it take for us to get a Star Trek reference?
Less than 10 minutes in. Less than 10 minutes
Okay,
in.
good. Okay, I just want to be clear, because this seems to be a recurring theme in our show.
It's either Star Wars, Star Trek, or Buffy gets thrown into the mix at some point when we talk about Justice League, which is inevitable. And that's fine with me. I want to shout out the voice cast, too, because this one, again... We had obviously Phil Lamar doing double duty, not only as Jon Stewart, but also as Steel. Carl, of course, as Sean Jones, Martian Manhunter. George Newbern as Superman. You were in it, Susan, but you had no voices other than probably a little ADR when Amazo blows all of you back. Clancy Brown back, of course, as Lex Luthor, because who else can do that? We have John C. McGinley as the Atom. Nicole Tom returns as Supergirl. Robert Picardo returns as Amazo. Will Friedle, Kyle Rayner. We have Oded Fair back as Dr. Fate, and Jennifer Hale as Inza. Someone pointed out, it was one of the questions we got on Twitter, he's never referred to as Amazo. It's always Professor Ivo's android.
The android.
Do either of you know why they never actually referred to him as Amazo?
In dialogue, it just sounds stupid. Okay. Now, that was the reason. It just sounds bad.
You know, there are things that play on a comic book page that when you say them out loud don't necessarily play.
Oh, interesting.
Gotcha.
And you know, here comes Amazo doesn't necessarily play.
And it doesn't sound threatening either.
No, he sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't he?
Right. Like, oh, yay, Amazo's here.
Right. He's going to amaze us all.
He's a magician who does tricks at kids' parties.
Right.
Hey, Kyle's birthday is coming up. Let's have Amazo come and do some conjuring, of course. Why
100%.
not?
I have to say something, if I can, about the process on this, because the first episode I worked on for The Man Who Has Everything, and I don't know if you remember this, Stan, the outline was done, and I wrote the first draft of the teleplay, and I sent it in, and I didn't hear anything. It's the first episode that I did for you guys, and I thought, I completely screwed this up. They're never going to use me again, blah, blah, blah. And I finally reached out to you, and you said, no, it was great. We don't need to rewrite, blah, blah, blah. We're done. And I was like, wow, this show is really easy and a lot of fun. And then so the next script comes along, and there was so much rewriting. As I remember, I went through every draft, and there were so many notes. And
you referring to the return or something else?
No, the return. I mean, because after For the Man Who Has Everything, where there was only one draft and there were no notes, I thought this is what it was always going to be. But of course, it was never like that again, because that's not the way it works.
I don't remember there being all those rewrites.
No, I mean, there were, normal. There were 3 drafts and a polish, but the first one, there was just 1 draft, and I was done, and it was all good. So I got fooled.
Do you remember some of the notes that were in there?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like a change of the characters, because
it's just the normal process. There are always notes because, that's just the way it works. You turn in a draft, and then you get all the notes back from everybody, you rewrite it, and you go through that for like 3 or 4 drafts, and that's just the normal process.
So anything stand out to you watching this episode after so much time?
How many characters are in it?
Yeah.
And I like to concentrate on like 3 or 4 characters and keep it intimate. And this had every Justice League character in the history of the world. So that part was a bit of a challenge. Coordinating all these characters and their powers, doing all their crazy stuff is always something you really have to think about. And
the story didn't require any of that. It's just 2 people talking, really. I mean,
right. But you had to get there.
Yeah.
You had to get there.
Was there
It was very profound, though. I mean, I thought the whole thing, the subject matter was very profound.
Yeah.
And, I just love Dr. Fate. I love the purpose dialogue, talking about what one's purpose is in this lifetime. And it's so ironic, that Lex, of all people, would be involved in something that moving and self-reflective.
It is. But in a way, you see where the android started asking him questions about himself, and Lex very, very shrewdly replies, no, you don't want to know my answer. You're thinking about yourself. I thought that was a really great line that he had. And and it's manipulative, of course, but that's who Lex is. I thought it was interesting that what this powerful android comes up with as a purpose is to basically just watch. Right, Mark? I mean, he's watching. He just wants to see.
Yeah, right. There's a Ray Bradbury quote about our job is to witness the unfolding of the universe, something like that, and that's sort of what it is. That he wants to see where it's all going, and
so he's a voyeur.
Cosmic voyeur, yes.
Well, I mean, the argument is, Jesus, the robot, the android, has all this power, and he's going to use it to just watch.
Right, but I think the suggestion is also that he's going to go out and he will continue to evolve. This is the answer that got him by for now, but he will continue. And in fact, James Tucker and I did a comic book thing, Justice League Infinity, which was sort of the comic book version of the next season, where we followed up with Amazo, and it was a comic book, so we got to call him Amazo, and his continued evolution in that book.
But you'd think, with human beings, when they get really rich and powerful, and they think, well, what am I going to do as a legacy? They help people,
right?
You would think that the android might consider being helpful, to help other living things. But apparently not. Apparently it's just going to sit back and watch.
But to that end, and both of you have written stuff for the Marvel as well, but it did remind me of, so now you're taking the role of a watcher, which obviously in Marvel Universe, they have a lot of power, but they're designed to just observe and catalog and never interfere. So it kind of, in my mind, there was that little bit of a similarity between what his role was now, what he was called upon to do, decided he wanted to take upon himself, and that of the Watchers in the Marvel Universe.
I didn't take it that passively, honestly. It was sort of like, go out there, watch the universe unfold. And I think that what the unspoken thing after that is then go get involved, which I think that he would do, I didn't take it, he's just going to go land on a planet for a while and watch things and land someplace else. And I didn't take it that passively.
Because he ends up as a guest there at the Tower of Fate for a while, because I think the next time we see him, he's playing chess with Shayera.
And Dr. Fate is all about, the cosmic stuff and inner journeys and who are we and what is the universe all about. So the suggestion is that teaching will go on and that inner exploration will go on, at least in my head anyway.
Was there a reason, do you know, either one of you, was it your own choices? Was it kind of like a decision overall between everyone who was involved, which characters were going to be used? Because we saw some that we hadn't seen for a while, like Starman. Steel was there, obviously. We had that for the space group. And then we had Fire and Red Tornado and Rocket Red for the air defense. Was there any rhyme or reason at all as to why certain characters were picked and put employed on different stages of the defense? Do you remember?
I think that all came from the outline that Stan wrote. So
okay.
So now I have to answer that.
That's right.
Within that group of Bruce and Dwayne and James Tucker, I think that they love certain characters, and this was their chance to animate them.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I was thinking once you went through Captain Atom and Starman and Superman and Green Lantern, is Rocket Red's machine gun really going to slow you down if you're able to go through those guys? So not. That explains it, though. So it was just kind of, we haven't seen these characters for a while, and we want to see them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And given the threat, they were all needed. They needed as many as they could get,
Right. You're hoping to slow him down, which I loved. I loved the... I got, just because of the way my brain works, I got shades of Get Smart as he's going through the different doors as he's trying to get to Lex. The spray thing comes down. They've got the different... And
also the barbershop.
The barbershop.
Yes.
And that was in S.H.I.E.L.D., the S.H.I.E.L.D. comic book. That's where S.H.I.E.L.D. had their hidden headquarters, was there you went into a barbershop, which they stole, I think, from the Man from U.N.C.L.E. Because the Man from U.N.C.L.E., it was like a dry cleaner or something like that.
Yeah, but I love seeing those little connections like that. When you're doing this, I assume they obviously, like you said, this is supposed to be a conversation, and at the end we're bringing back Hawk Girl. Was that the whole plan, or was this, why was this the episode that was decided to bring Shayera back? Was it just, it fit well thematically and with the story?
I don't know if it was thematic, but just the amount of time.
Okay.
You can't leave her ignore her for 10 episodes. You have to.
Why not? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I hold a grudge. What can I tell you?
It's more for Wonder Woman if she's not there, right?
No, it's too long. You have to judge. Is it too short of a time to bring her back in the very next episode? Do you wait 10 episodes? Do you split the difference and bring her back in 5? Remember, at the time, there was no binge watching when these things were made. So we took into account the number of weeks that someone would have been gone.
But it was always the plan to bring her back. In other words, we always knew, always knew she was going to betray the League and leave and then come back. Yes. Because Maria has been so vocal in interviews about how devastated she was when she first found out, because she thought, oh no. And it was just horrible. And then, of course, she realized there was a much bigger plot at hand, and she could relax and enjoy it and appreciate how meaty it was for her to play. But at first, when she was told, it was, it was devastating. But I loved that surprise ending. I loved that. I loved seeing her just walk out like that from the shadows.
When you have the opening that you had with Jon Stewart wanting to leave, not feeling very good about all that stuff, his personal matters, you have to have her at the end.
Yep.
There's no way around that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sprinkle in some Twitter questions as we go. Our friends at DCAU Watchtower, we already asked about why it wasn't called Amazo, why he was always referred to as Professor Ivo's android. But they were asking, I'm not sure it was discussed back during the production of Tabula Rasa, but was there ever talks of other ways Amazo could have come back instead of how this episode played out? Do you remember, Stan, were there any other discussions about, hey, maybe we could bring him back now? Or was it just, this is the best way to bring him back, and this was the first time it had really been broached?
You know what? I don't recall other instances of conversations about that. Again, we tended to finish stories that seemed unfinished. Mm-hmm. And certainly at the end of Tabula Rasa, it seemed like an unfinished story.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, it's timing. You have this to choose from or that story to choose from. Do it now.
Hey, Stan, I have a question for you. How planned out was the season? So you're starting the season. Did you have a map of where you wanted the whole thing to go at the beginning of the season? Did you have the first, few episodes planned out? How did that work?
In Justice League Unlimited?
Yeah.
No. The original plan was to bring in people like yourself and others who were well known in the comic book field and just have them come up with ideas that would appeal to us. But that didn't work very well. So around the time of the return, or maybe a little bit before, that's when we started thinking long term. And that long term continued. As you can recall from watching television during that era, most shows were anthological, meaning that the shows were freestanding. But around that time, it started to be more and more common that you would have to see one episode after the other, serialization, in other words, in all kinds of TV shows. To the point where now you could turn on anything in prime time and it's serialized. So that was in the medium or in the media at that time, the idea of serialization. And so if someone were to watch Justice League Unlimited from start to finish, they would see that the initial episodes were freestanding, and then more and more they become planned out, and that planning began during the season, right around this point.
I guess that makes sense, because I can, go up on Tubi, pop in an episode of Remington Steele, and it doesn't really matter what season it's in.
Exactly.
Whereas, I guess with Three's Company, you're going to turn on one and then turn on another. Hey, why is the roommate suddenly taller? They swapped out Terry for Chrissy or whatever it is. But yeah, to that point, especially now with streaming, I think it's very, streamlined. There's a through point we're going to, and it is very hard to that point, Stan, to turn on a regular episode of television. So if you try to jump into I'm just going to put on an episode of Severance, no idea what's going on unless you start at the beginning.
Right.
I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's unfortunate, actually. I think we've lost something without, where everything is so interconnected and you can't just jump in. It works for some shows, but I think standalone episodes are still a nice thing. Same thing with comics. I always like to do nice little one-off stories with a beginning, middle, and end. Not everything has to be an epic.
Yes, Mark, I think the anthological approach is better for writers. Much better. Because, I was watching Ozark during COVID, and I don't remember any specific episode of Ozark because it was all serialized.
Yeah.
They all, it was one long narrative. And by the way, on some shows, when they do that, you often feel the writer's hand in it. Like, what are the writers going to do to these characters next in order to keep us watching? So I agree completely with Mark. And the example I'll use is the phrase "to serve man." Okay. We all know what that's referring to, right?
It's a cookbook.
Sure.
Well, it's the Twilight Zone. Yeah, cookbook. Yeah. It's the Twilight Zone from, what is it, 65 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
It came on in 1959, yeah.
Yeah, and so we all remember it. And you couldn't have done that unless you were doing an anthological approach to shows.
And streaming has killed it a little bit too, because you watch these shows and you watch like 8 or 10 episodes in a row, and then it doesn't come back for a year and a half or 2 years. And by the time it comes back, I don't remember anything about that show that I watched 2 years before. And there's something about a show being on every week. Right. And you make an appointment and you get to know those characters, and then you spend a whole, what used to be 22 episodes, a whole year practically with these people. And I think there's something lost there.
I think that might be why some of the streaming services, you see it not as much with Netflix, but certainly with Amazon Prime, you see them going back to that model of we're going to drop one a week. Only Murders in the Building was doing that.
Yeah, Apple does that too. Yeah. Slow Horses. Everyone's
Right.
just been watching Slow Horses. Comes on every week, and it's something to look forward to too.
Yeah. And then you get to talk about it with friends at the I think it was called Water Cooler Talk, where we're going to talk about the show at the water cooler.
Back in the last century, we called that water cooler talk.
No, I remember with The Sopranos, you would just be so excited that it was a new episode of The Sopranos. Mm-hmm. Sunday nights, it was woo. And Sex in the City.
Yeah, I think someone just pointed out they put an episode of Cheers up, and I think one of the reasons I remember episodes of Cheers so well is because there was not a big connective tissue that you had to watch all of season 9 to understand Kirstie Alley's motivations for wanting to marry Robin Colcourt, or whatever it was. So, as I throw out all my Cheers nerd knowledge there, sorry.
Oh my God, I'm still back where you mentioned Remington Steele and Three's Company, but we'll talk about that later.
I'm an 80s kid. What can I say?
Oh my God.
With this episode, I know one of the other questions we had on Twitter, let me bounce back over to that platform for just a moment. We have at Brian E331 asks, now that Clancy Brown has been playing Luther for years, did his performance impact at all how the character was being written by the time we get to this episode and beyond?
Not for me, because I have to be honest, I had just started writing for the show and I had not seen very much of it. So I was really going by what was in the outline and my discussions with Stan and Dwayne. So I had not yet, once you know the voices, then you can write to the voices. But I didn't really know the voices all that well. So I was I was probably writing the Luther from the Superboy show in my head,
Stan?
Who was a great Luther, by the way. He was fantastic.
He was. Underrated.
Yeah. I'm surprised you never saw Luther on the Superman cartoons.
No, I don't think I back in those days, I've seen them since, but back in those days, I don't think I'd seen the Superman cartoons.
Writing for Clancy was always a pleasure. I mean, a really big pleasure to write for him.
Oh, he's great.
He's amazing. And I think that as a voice actor, that the idea of having somebody knowing your voice, knowing your rhythms, knowing how, your cadence, and writing to that, or your humor, or what a joy that would be to have somebody know my voice so intimately that they could write for me. I've had a video game that I did that, because we'd worked so long together, the writers just wrote with me in mind, and it felt so intimate, and it was just delightful. Well,
likewise, you and the other actors on Justice League, all of them.
Right, because we did it for, I mean, after that first season, you got to know us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. And that's really important in finding the voice. I've written for shows where like it's a new show and they don't have anything yet to share and you have no idea what the voices are and you're just shooting in the dark, really,
Yeah. I still say that if we could somehow get a live action version of Clancy's Lex Luthor, it would still, because I like what Nicholas Hoult did. Gene Hackman was always too campy for me. I still say Michael has been probably our best live action Lex Luthor in Smallville, but I was so hopeful they'd get like someone like Bryan Cranston to play him in live action, just like Clancy voiced him in the series. Because this still, as it is for many of the characters, this is the definitive version of Lex Luthor for me.
Well, don't forget Sherman Howard. If you haven't seen Superboy, check it out.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
Very flamboyant actor who we also used on Batman Beyond as a villain, with him just doing the voice work.
Oh, nice. I don't know if I made that connection, which is, again, that's my second strike on nerddom here, because I missed the Star Trek motion picture reference. Now I didn't realize that he was a voice on Batman Beyond as well. Shame on me.
If I don't have you, I am screwed. You're my backup, dude.
I know. I'll try to do better. I apologize. Our friend at Girl with Cello says, this was a large episode with a lot of players. How do you balance juggling them when you're developing the script? What is the nerdy Easter egg in this episode that excites you? And she loves the surprise at the end about having Shayera show up at the end. So I guess the question for the two of you, how do you balance juggling them all when developing the script? And was there a certain nerdy Easter egg in the episode that excites either one of you?
Yeah, juggling that many characters can be difficult. The good thing is in this episode, there were lots and lots of characters that didn't say anything.
Right.
So you just had to worry about, the choreography of the action. But even in comics, I've written a lot of team books, and team books are really difficult because you have to pay attention to the individual characters, and everybody's got a different power set. So you want to use their powers and show that off, and then you want to tell a good story with some depth of character. And having that many characters is a difficult thing. And for me, that episode, one thing I do remember, I thought it was a real challenge to me because, like I said, it's not my nature. I like to drill down on 2 or 3 characters and really drill down. And then when you've got this giant cast, it's a challenge. So I actually found it helpful to me working on this episode, even more than writing some team books in comics, that it really helped me get over my phobia of that many characters.
And Stan?
Yeah, the choreography is much more difficult to write in animation because when you're doing live action, you just assume the director will have an idea of how to, place everybody. But when you're doing the script for animation, you're stuck with having to make sure that all the choreography works. Is this guy over here in one scene, and then he couldn't be over there in the other scene? That kind of thing. It's really difficult. And I noticed no problems whatsoever in this episode. A lot of it too. Let's not forget the animation directors.
Yeah,
really good. They're really good. You just never see screw ups at all from them.
All these things that people have to understand when they're watching a TV show. No matter who it says written by, it's a team thing.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? The story is being shaped by a number of people. The script is being shaped with all these notes. The director then brings in a whole other world. So it's never just one thing or one angle. It's all these different angles coming together to create something.
When you said choreography of the action, I don't think anyone's mentioned that before. And that you mentioned it and then Stan mentioned it. And I find that so fascinating because I had not thought about that.
Yeah, you got to really think about that
Not
stuff.
thought about it at all. And I love that. I love that conversation, the choreography of the action.
Yeah, often in live action, when there's a fight scene, the writer will just say fight scene to be choreographed. And that's suddenly it's the stuntman's problem. And you can't do that in animation at all.
So as the writers on this, are there notes like, for example, just taking that first scene, Superman tries to get him to stop, Green Lantern lights up his ring, fires, Starman shoots his beam. Is that written or is that strictly left on?
That's in the script. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's in the script.
If the characters
very
are
specifically in the script,
and
then the director they will take that and run with that, but that has to be in the script first.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that was left to the storyboard department and the director, or if that was something that the two of you wrote out as to who shoots first and everything like that.
Right. Yeah. No, that's all in there.
Yep.
And it was very, I think Susan and I use this term a lot to describe this series, but it was cinematic. How you have the close up on Jon Stewart, his ring lights up and he has that beam that almost whips out at the android as he fires it. Orion comes up on his platform. You get that close up sweeping by him. Cinematic is the best term that I think Susan and I have come up with to describe this 22-minute per episode series that we're talking about.
And to go back to what Susan was saying at the beginning, that's what I was, and I removed myself from this because I wrote 7 episodes, but Stan and those guys were the masterminds behind this. How much they got in every episode, especially over the years as I've rewatched it,
Yeah.
First of all, there's always great character stuff. There is a great theme. There is action. There's everything you could want. Great acting, and it's all, as you said, it's 22 minutes, and there's more in some of those 22 minutes than you'll see in an 8 or 10 hour streaming show.
Yeah,
it's true.
With running this the show like this, the different characters you've worked on, I'm curious, Stan, did you ever find one of these heroes? I don't want to say harder to write, but a little bit more complex to find the voice of or the reasoning behind it. Was there ever a character like that who kind of gave you a little bit of trouble?
Well, if the powers are kind of lame, like bouncing boy, what's the creeper?
Oh yeah,
my superpower is I'm crazy. Okay, I mean, that's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah.
But he's fun to write though because he's crazy. Whereas bouncing boy, you got to really dive deep to find something there.
Yeah.
But you can do it. That's, I had a conversation with somebody about this before. I think it was at the convention. There are no bad characters on one level. You can always find a way in. You might have to invent that way in. You might have to rethink the character. But, your job, whatever they hand you, is to find the way in and make something interesting. I always say, especially in comics, I have to cut off the tops of the heads of these characters, get out my flashlight and root around in there and find some pocket that hasn't been explored before and make it interesting. And I've been handed sometimes, in animation, I've been handed characters and they say we're going to do an animated movie with this character. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't like that one. Oh, I can't. But that's the gig. So I have to find my way into that character's head and heart, make it interesting to me, and have something substantial to say in a story, but that's what we get paid for.
So are you going to do the script where a matter eater boy gets food poisoning?
He ate some lead paint in one of the buildings. But
you can do a comedy episode, why not?
So I take it that was never a problem with you for Constantine then, because that guy just oozes story and just
yeah. In fact, the Constantine movie that I did was one of my all-time favorite animation projects. I loved working on that one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Gosh, and we to bounce back to Twitter here because I kind of want to make sure we get a lot of these in if possible here. Let's see who else we had. We had a lot of questions come in once we announced the two of you. It seems like our Twitter blew up. Going back to the thing, my internet is giving me troubles. Apologies. We have Brandon Conte just says, awesome. Can't wait. Here's a good one. At WR Miller 2 wants to know why the two of you are such great writers.
All right. Stop for a minute. I know who WR Miller is.
Oh, do you?
Really?
Hold on.
What is he doing?
It's a fair question. I mean, it's
that's Bob Miller, and he wrote this book.
Oh my gosh.
And he wrote 3 others just as big and heavy as this one.
Wow.
He worked at Warner's Animation.
And we should say the name of the book.
It is the unofficial Batman, the animated interviews.
Ooh.
Volume 5.
Yeah,
Wowza.
4 others.
A lot of interviews. My goodness.
Yes. So there's a plug for Bob.
Hold on. I'm writing a note because I want to go out and get these books now. Hold on. By Bob Miller, you said is the name?
Yeah. Well, it's W.R. Miller.
It is W.R. Miller. Okay. Make a note to look those up on, see if I can get them from my local bookstore. Is that a recent book, or they've been obviously 5 volumes in? But
it's real recent.
Oh, good. Okay.
Wowza.
Huh.
Can we just talk about Oa? Am I saying it right? Oa?
Yeah.
And I loved that it was just moved to a different dimension. And then when he moved it back, he just blinked.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love like those moments where he's like, I didn't destroy it. I just moved it to a different dimension. And then he blinks and it's moved back. I have to say I geeked out over this episode because I just thought there were so many moments between the characters, even though it did encompass a lot of different characters. The individual moments I just really, really enjoyed. And I also, the voice acting, that brought me into it so much more because I don't remember Dr. Fate. I wasn't in this episode. And, so it was just hearing him, Clancy, I know so well, and I know his voice so well. And I am never not astounded by his performance. But Dr. Fate, I just thought it was so dynamite. And the Atom, I loved all of that. And I don't know, the Oa thing just, for some reason, it just moved me when we talked about it. Like it was just moved to a different dimension because it was in my way.
And also, it plays into there's an innocence to the android.
Yes.
Can we say Amazo to Amazo? And just the fact that, of course, well, I wouldn't destroy those people. I just moved them to another dimension. Here, they can have them back now. You know,
right?
I loved that.
Yeah, and Lex even says, "I played on his naivete, which is why he wants revenge." But it doesn't seem like he lost any of that innocence. To your point, Jam, that he just moved. He wasn't out to destroy it. He wasn't going to ruin it. He just moved it. So he didn't. Right. He didn't become malicious with his greater power and greater knowledge. So I don't know if the naivete is still there, but that innocence was retained, which I thought was beautiful.
And fair enough that he had a grievance. He really did have a grievance, and he rightfully so. Lex was awful what he did to him. So, I get why he's back, and I get why he's back to pay Luthor back. Luthor was awful.
Yeah.
I guess that goes without saying because he's a villain, but still, he's just so bad.
And yet he wasn't there for revenge. That was the beautiful thing about the story. Right. He was there seeking his purpose.
Right.
As we all are.
And I do love that Lex, you get that when we first see him, he has that interview. Oh, I've got this chest plate. Who knows how long I have to live? I want to give back. And he was playing up to the cameras. And then as soon as they snap him up, what are you doing? And he escapes. He's back to his ways. So just that duplicity, you never know what angle he's playing, which is, I think, one of the things that makes him such a complex. He can't fire lasers out of his eyes, and he can't fly or teleport. But that's what makes him such a pernicious villain, is his duplicity, his ability to shrewdly read people, like he could, to your point, with the android when he shows up, says, you're asking about you, not about me. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things that makes him just a timeless, one of the great villains.
Yeah, voiced by a great actor. So
yeah. And Oded Fehr also, I love him as a voice actor, and I love it when I get to go to these conventions and I meet these people, and people are coming up to Oded. He was at Nightmare Con in Chicago 2 years ago. People are having him sign stuff from The Mummy, or there's a sci-fi show that he did, now is escaping me. But I walk up to him and put down a Dr. Fate action figure, and his eyes lit up. Yeah. He's like, oh! Yeah. And he kind of it shook him a little bit, because I guess there aren't a lot of people having him sign Justice League stuff, which is weird. But I do love that every single actor, from Nathan Fillion to Oded Fehr, if I put a Justice League character down in front of them for them to sign, it's the same reaction. Their eyes light up, and they kind of look at me like, oh, you're a fan of this. It's a really neat reaction.
And they were fans too growing up, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I've seen over the years, because I'm coming out of comics, what I learned was the audience, there's a crossover, but there's a huge audience that just loves this stuff in animation. And they're not necessarily comic book fans, know? And I find that fascinating, that they love these. I guess the same way that there are people that are fans of the movies, like the Marvel movies or DC movies, and would never in a million years pick up a comic book. In my head, I thought, well, probably if they're into this, then they must read the comics. And it's not necessarily true. There isn't always a crossover. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah, well, we talked to Dan Jurgens a couple of weeks ago about Booster Gold. And it was interesting to hear, because, he created the character, And then he sees it animated in the show, and we were getting his take on what he thought of the episode. Which episode was it?
That was for the greatest story never told.
Story never told, right. And, it's one thing to create this in comic book form and tell stories that way. And then a whole other deal to watch it be animated and brought to life with voices that maybe you didn't hear in your head as Booster Gold. And he really got a kick out of it. He loved the episode. I don't know that he, awkward if he didn't. I mean, that would have been awkward.
He probably wouldn't have come on the show if that was the case.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, sorry, guys, I'm busy.
Right, forever. Well, but I asked him if he had ever wanted to break out into, to do animation and write for animation. And it's interesting because they are very two different worlds, and
even different disciplines. Yeah.
Still. And you never know if one can. I mean, fortunately, there's a certain comic book writer on this podcast right now who happen to have both skills.
Right.
Right for live action. But you can't take it for granted that a comic book guy could definitely write for animation or live action. You never know.
Yeah. And it was interesting, like we talked about with one of the other people who we're looking to bring on for one of the next seasons is Gail Simone, who's written a lot of comic books, and she wrote she did the teleplay for Double Date, I think is the name of the episode.
Yes.
But I do love the fact that there were those comic book people who you tapped to come in, and it worked out. It seemed like it worked out well every single time you did this.
No, it didn't.
Oh, didn't it? Oh, no.
It did not always work out well. Sometimes we were stuck with a lot of rewriting to do.
Oof. And are we going to name names, or we won't name names? We'll.
And Stan and I already had a history. We had worked together on Superboy, so it was like we already we knew each other creatively by that point.
That was the trepidation I had before I met you. They said, "Oh, this guy's written a bunch of comic books." And I went, "Well, it's two different skills." And fortunately, you had those additional skills.
Yeah, I had done a little bit of TV before I started working on Superboy, but just a couple of things. Yeah. Superboy was great because it was basically just Stan and this other guy, Paul, and it was very intimate. It wasn't like a giant staff, and there weren't notes from hundreds of people. It was mostly just Stan calling me up and saying, fix this, change that, whatever. And in a lot of ways, those scripts were the purest scripts I've ever written in terms of what I wrote translated to what got on the television, which is interesting. And most of the world doesn't even know that show existed. And I had such a great time writing for that show and working with Stan.
There's a book that came out, The Forgotten Series or something.
Yeah.
That's not flattering.
Right, when the subtitle is The Forgotten Series. Yeah.
I distinctly remember watching that on Saturday mornings as a kid. It was on our local Channel 11 KPRL affiliate, but I always thought it was weird because I wasn't at the time old enough to realize, why does Superboy look different this season? Because obviously the actor was replaced.
Right. And then Stan, for my money, is the one that really made that show work. Because in the beginning, it was much more of a kid show. Mm-hmm. And Stan brought in a lot more, within the context of a kid-friendly show, a lot more adult themes and deeper stories, and it all came from him.
In other words, Mark, I'm the reason the show is forgotten.
I'll never forget, Stan. I'll never forget.
It was great as a kid's show, but when Stan brought in all that adult stuff.
Yeah, I know. Well, the nudity didn't really fly, but
You know what? You don't know how close you came with that remark to be accurate.
What?
What you just said, your little joke.
The nudity?
That was not that funny because there were certain things that I had to step up and stop, certain inclinations.
Oh, gosh.
I know.
Wow.
I mean, the problem is we became more adult and the kids just stopped watching.
Really? Oh, I never knew that.
Well, there's no proof. I don't have the ratings in front of me, but I have to assume that by the end, in L.A., the fourth season ended up being shown at 3 a.m. No TV station is going to do that with a show that's being seen by a lot of people.
Interesting. It was on like at noon, I think, in New York. Yeah, noon on Saturday, something like that.
Much better.
Much better.
But I think one of the things about the Justice League and also Unlimited is that we've said this many times, is that kids can watch it and enjoy it.
Yes.
And adults are also, it's not a drag. It was the adults fell in love with the show as well. And it, to this day, I see the generation. I see that it just keeps going. And
I think it's more loved and respected now than it was when it was on the air.
Yeah. Yes.
I have to say that's true.
But getting back to the return and children watching.
Yeah.
I know from my own experience when I was a child, they would have loved fight, all these fights. And then at the end, people are just talking. So I wonder if a kid would have stuck around for the talk. Or okay, the good stuff's over. I'm going to go on something else now.
Yeah, but it was still visual and it was interesting.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
They shrunk down and Amazo got really, really big. And, I think it was still, you have to make it visually interesting while they're talking to each other.
Yeah, you did a very good job of that, I thought.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I think.
Joaquin.
Yeah, all the Green Lanterns lighting up, getting ready to just wipe out Amazo. Is this going to work? And having Dr. Fate step in. I think all that. I never felt like there was a lull. And again,
Right.
I'm not a kid anymore, chronologically, but I still think that kept going, and it never felt like it. They're talking now. I never got that feeling.
Good.
So
that was the point.
Okay, so while we have the two of you here, is there anything you two need to talk about that that you've been, hey, I just been dying to ask Stan, or I've been, I want to talk about this whole, it doesn't have to be Justice League related. It could be some other show or some other experience because it's so rare to have the two of you together.
Yes. Mark, what conventions are you doing in the upcoming week?
It's funny. Like I stopped going right when the last conventions I went to were like in 2019, and then COVID came. And after COVID, I really didn't want to go back. And a year ago, I got invited to San Diego as a special guest, and I was like, I'm not ready. And then they invited me again this year, so I went and had a great time. I went with my daughter and her husband. We had a great time. And then I said, all right, I can dip my toe back in. So I went to this GalaxyCon. That was okay. And now in December, my wife and I are going to Brazil to see CCXP, which is supposed to be like the biggest convention in the world.
Now, were you supposed to go to that one at one point?
I was supposed to go last year, and I got sick, and I couldn't go. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so that's great that you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And I said it now, if I get through all three of these conventions without having a complete nervous breakdown, I'll be going to regular conventions next year. And certainly probably a bunch of GalaxyCons. I know I'm going to go to one in Salt Lake City, like in September of next year for sure.
Okay, and Stan, Stan, you cracked me up because Stan was like, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe I'll do some Comic-Cons. And then I look on social media at Heroic Fine Arts, and like you're booked all the time. I see you out there doing these cons, and it makes me so happy.
It's been once a month promoting the book.
I love it.
I'm really enjoying it because you get feedback from the fans.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Now they're in middle age, and they talk about what they saw as kids. So it's good. I'm going to be at a convention in San Francisco at Thanksgiving time.
Nice.
And beyond that, I'm not sure. Hopefully, Heroic Fine Art will have other conventions lined up in 2026. So we'll see.
Oh, they will. Undoubtedly, they will. And they always promote it. I mean, because I see it on social. That's how I find out where you're going to be. And I always comment, like when I see you and Dan Riva are going to be somewhere, I'm always like, yay, you guys got the best.
Well, I hope all of our paths will cross at some point.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to see you in person again, Stan.
And I take it.
Well, yeah, maybe there will be one where you both can, attend.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, James. James has a Comic-Con now.
Well,
right. He mentioned it to me.
But yeah, that's something we will be looking at, probably reaching out to the two of you to see availability wise coming. But I want to say, Stan, the book seems to be really well received because you and I met in person for the first time at Planet Comic-Con, and my buddy was there. He's like, oh, and he picked up your book, and he just told me, gosh, it's been about a month or two since he read it. He goes, that book was so good, I could not put it down. Yeah. So I'm assuming you're getting that response a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad he enjoyed it. I'm glad he enjoyed it. I really have not gotten no bad reviews, so I asked AI to write a bad review for me.
Well, the thing about the book that's so great is it's not conventional.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't follow a typical narrative. And
You're expecting conventionality from me.
It's true.
No. And so it was surprising, you know,
Sure.
And that's always wonderful to be surprised.
And I did want to ask, I won't keep you all too much longer. I want to ask JM though, the multiverse, how's everything proceeding there? The last campaign
multiverse
went well?
is good. The last campaign went well. We're gearing up. We're gearing up for round 3, so I'm very excited about that. I'll plug whatever else I can plug. Let's see. Spider-Man 94 is out now
Love it.
from Marvel. I've been next season, whenever, I'm not sure when it's coming on. Batman Cape Crusader. I've got an episode of that coming up. And I've got a novel coming out hopefully early next year called Dark Future for a company called Neotex that I've been writing some stuff for the past few years. I'm very excited about that too.
Wow. So you'll be out promoting that, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Very cool. You know, and I love too that like we're of a certain age and busy. You know, that's always a lovely thing.
Well, you know, when you're a creative person, I always say I'd be doing this if no one was paying me for it, right?
Right.
So I'm just glad people are still paying me for it.
Yes.
And if people want to keep up with the two of you online, where's the social medias they can find you at, or websites where people can, we'll start with Stan.
Just Facebook.
Facebook.com/Stan Berkowitz. And JM?
I'm on Blue Sky, and mostly I'm not on Twitter/X anymore. I can't go there.
Yeah, and I'm not there either. But, you know, we did set up the account there originally. And so James goes on there to post about our, and I'll post on Blue Sky and obviously on Instagram.
Right.
But our account started there. So we've left it there. But James.
Yeah, my account is probably still sitting there, but I haven't been there to look at it for a really, really long time. So Blue Sky, Threads, sort of, Facebook, and I have my website, jmdmatteis.com.
Okay.
It's been phenomenal to have you both. The double input on this episode, I think, was exactly what we needed. So J.M. DeMatteis and Stan Berkowitz, thank you so much.
A pleasure.
Thank you both.
Stan, great to see you. Really great to see you.
Good seeing you again, Mark. Hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
Yeah.
There they go. How fun was that, having the teleplay and the story, both the guys responsible for bringing us this episode on together, and the fact that they go way back, and that was wonderful.
It was, and I think that's like I say all the time. It's one of the many gifts of this podcast is to be able to have these conversations, because God knows I wasn't having them when I was in the studio at Warner Brothers Animation. I mean, you just didn't have these conversations, and it's lovely to be able to look back, and it's nostalgic, and seeing the two of them and their joy in seeing each other. And, you just feel it. You feel the regard they both have for each other and for the show and that experience. So, yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing that could have made it better is if we'd had Joaquim Dos Santos, the director, on with us too, because they both referenced, they said, the directing and the storyboard is what kind of made this so special as well. And they said, it's a team thing. We get the credit on the title card, but everyone else who makes this the storyboard, and obviously under the direction of Joaquim Dos Santos, who is fantastic.
He's fantastic, and we will have him back too. And you have to talk about the direction, because there is so much going on in this episode. So the writers have to just put words into the people that are going to be voicing characters that day. Yeah. But the director has to create all the characters. Right. And, when you think about the shortness of the episode and how much is in there, it's such an achievement on all of their parts, right? It's just so good.
Yeah, and the fact that we've had both of these gentlemen on the show before, and now they've to have them back together was really cool. And they said they hadn't seen each other in probably about 10 years at least.
I think longer.
Was it?
Yeah, but maybe, yeah. And I have to say, choreography of the action, hadn't thought about it. And that is like, wowza. I really loved hearing them talk about that.
And when you said I hadn't thought about that, what made my mind kind of spike on that one is the fact that you don't have to think about it as a viewer. You're just seeing it. Right. And it doesn't register, my gosh, how wonderfully is this choreographed, until it's pointed out to you. Then you're like, oh yeah, shows how almost they make it seem effortless.
They do.
It's amazing.
Yep.
Or should I say amazo?
Amazo.
Look at us. Look at us. It's the puns that people really tune in for. That's that.
No, I think so, right? Don't you think?
The puns and the Star Trek references. That's why they show up every 2 weeks is to hear that.
But you didn't get the Star Trek. It didn't occur to you, right? It reminded him of the movie, Star Trek movie.
When he pointed it out, I was like, oh my gosh, duh. How did I not get that? But I was just listening to a podcast. No, I was watching a documentary the other day on 1982, the geekiest movie year ever. They went through all the different movies, and they mentioned Star Trek 2, and they did mention Star Trek 1, the motion picture, wasn't that well received, and they didn't know if they were going to get a sequel because it was kind of dull, kind of boring, and like I said, it's that conversation. But the fact that they were able to take the conversation and draw it out into this great episode is a credit to them, but also, if you haven't seen Star Trek the motion picture, now that you've seen this episode, The Return, go back and watch the motion picture and tell me I'm not wrong. It's not one of the best Star Trek films.
Well, didn't Stan say, I think it was Stan who said there was more action in this episode.
Yes. So Stan agrees with me on this. Yeah. I mean, Star Trek 2, still the best movie of the franchise. But this isn't a Star Trek podcast, so I'll stop.
Please.
But this was great. And like I said, we shouted out the voice cast, directing by Joaquin Dos Santos. This was a great episode to talk about, and it deserved to have both of these guys on, James DeMatteis and Stan Berkowitz. Thank you very much for your time. This was fantastic to have them on.
Yeah, it really was. And hopefully, we'll see them again down. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a given, right?
I would hope so. Yeah, they're both
okay. I mean,
fantastic.
We don't have a contract. There's no contract, but still, I think, we can all agree that we want that to happen.
I think we can. Yes, I agree. All
right. So what else do we have to talk about? We have to talk about what?
We have to talk about where they can find you if they want to talk about you online and they want to see what you're doing and how you're doing and everything like that.
Well, who's looking? So Susan Eisenberg 1 on Instagram and Blue Sky. And my website is susaneisenbergvoice.com, and you can email me there. May take a little while to get back to some people, but I will get back to you. And really, we ask this every time, but it really matters. Please subscribe to the podcast. And we had a review that we should mention. Okay. Remember, I sent it to you, and I want to look up the name.
Yeah,
so
if you're listening right now, if you're listening, make sure if you like what we're doing and haven't left us a review yet, it doesn't cost you anything other than a couple minutes. We love seeing a 5-star review come in, and we have been trying to be better about reading those online. So you might get a shout out in a future episode if you like what you're hearing. You leave us a review on any of the platforms you're looking at the podcast on.
Right, and this one is from Brittany. It says Brittany, please, PLS. And it said, this is the best podcast, and I'm so thankful. Well, I'm not going to read it because it's embarrassing, but it's lovely, and it's so sweet. And we thank you, Brittany, because I read it, and I sent it to James immediately, and it just meant the world to both of us. So please subscribe. And we have a Patreon.
That's right.
Right?
In fact, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, they're all on camera together. Yes, we have a Patreon. You can just go on and support the show because you really like what we're doing. There's also a higher tiered Patreon where you'll get to see the video of the interview. So you'll get to, zoom in on my nose hairs or check out, what's the weather like where Susan lives, and zoom in on the windows so you can see, it's sunny where she is, or whatever it might be. Or if you want to check out that book that Stan was holding up from W.R. Williams, and check that book out. You can zoom in on the title, hit pause. But we do a video for our higher tier Patreons, and I try, if I can remember, to drop it the day before the podcast. So it's actually, you get early access as well. So check out patreon.com. Just look for Justice League Revisited on there.
Wow. Okay. So then now tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes, if you're listening to this and my voice isn't too annoying, I also do a weekly radio show every Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, where we talk to several of the guests who've been on the show, have been on my show. Susan's obviously the de facto co-host of that one because she's on all the time. But we talk about the movies, pop culture, video games, comic books, and TV shows. In fact, let's see, this one drops So if you just listened to my past episode, I had James and Oliver Phelps from the Harry Potter franchise on, the Weasley twins, George and Fred, chatting about their new show. We've always got a comic book writer or artist on, or we just had Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones talking about their Kickstarter for Dracula that just ended, or it might be a producer or a musician. We had the Dynamic Music Partners on my show.
Yeah, and you've had voice actors.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had so many people. I mean, and live action actors. I mean, you really do have a brilliant roster, and people can go back if they missed one.
Yeah, if you
and
check
find
out
them.
youtube.com is the best place. You can subscribe there. That way, when we go live, as long as my executive producer, Joey V, is in the studio with me, we run video. He helps us out on this podcast, too.
Yeah, he does.
With all the stuff that he does and gets it uploaded and everything like that. So shout out to Joey V. But if he's in the studio with me, we do video so you can see the guests that we're talking to. YouTube.com/Geek To Me Radio. Hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I'm probably only about 300 people away. So hit the subscribe button there. Click the bell. That way you get notified when we go live. Facebook.com/Geek To Me Radio. And then I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Geek To Me Radio. And my final plug is check out the #2 Rivers Comic Con. We mentioned it during the broadcast with those gentlemen. We're going to have Dan Rebas coming back for my event in 2025. We're going to have Andrea Romano's coming. And a few other surprise guests. If you've not met Kevin Altieri before, he's going to be there at the Heroic Fine Arts booth. Big fan of his art and his work that he's done with the Warner Brothers projects and the DC animated universe. So it'll be a good time. Larry Hama, the godfather of G.I. Joe, is going to be there. Jerry Conway, co-creator of Punisher. So if you're a comic book fan, if you love animation, come check us out. We had people last year come from 12 different states and from Mexico. So we're hoping to
talk about that and talk about the location.
Yeah, it's in historic St. Charles, which I'm affiliated with them. DiscoverStCharles.com is one of our sponsors on my radio show. And I've had a partnership with them now for 25 years. So it seemed like a natural fit to have them be the sponsor for my show. And then also it's a gorgeous historic location. That's where we decided to host the Comic-Con. There's lots of free parking. So it's not like one of those where you have to go and,
it was brilliant.
$30 to park my car just to get
It was brilliant. It was like walking into a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, it was so quaint and so, because I went last year and you just didn't want to leave. I mean, it was like anytime, a lot of times when you do the cons, you're so tired at the end of the day, you just want to go back to your hotel room, take a nap, but not in St. Charles. In St. Charles, it was like, I wish we had more time to explore. It's such a treat to be there. So anyway, is that it? Are we done with our plugs?
I think we're done. Our plugs are plugged.
We're plugged. All right, everyone. We thank you for listening. It's such a treat to have you all, join us for these conversations, and please stay tuned because the conversation will continue.